Hello everyone, this is Chun from Body Reborn. This is a new segment called Everyday People, Superhero Movers. And today we're going to talk to Bryan about sprinting.
Set, go.
Alright, hello, we're here with Bryan today. We're going to talk about basically your transition from maybe long, steady endurance training to what you're doing now, sprinting. So this is Bryan, a three-time Boston Marathon competitor, holds many Canadian master records in ultra running, and also the most genuine nice guy I know.
Oh, wow. We can end the conversation right here. I'd be happy.
Okay, so how about you tell us a bit about your background and how you got into endurance running and when you got to endurance running? Because I know you got into a later age.
Into endurance running?
Well, closer to long distance.
Or marathoning? You mean marathoning? Or...
Yeah.
Well, I was diagnosed a number of years ago to have a high blood pressure, and I was administered a medication, which I'm still on today.
Yeah.
But I decided to choose a healthier lifestyle, and I started out walking as an exercise to help control my blood pressure, and kind of led to jogging on my own.
Yes.
And then discovering a whole world of people running in groups and running long distances and so on. I, in fact, watched the Boston Marathon one time and thought, wow, that's crazy, 26 miles,
Yeah.
But then I got thinking a little more about it, and I thought, I wonder if I can ever do anything like that. So I spoke to a guy at a running shop, and he was an experienced marathoner, and I asked him if he thought that I could ever run the Boston Marathon. Oh, because I thought that was the only marathon that ever existed.
Yeah.
It was the only one. And he says, well, the Boston Marathon is kind of special in a way, in that you need to qualify.
What was the qualifying time?
Well, my qualifying time at that age was 3 hours and 30 minutes.
Okay.
And so he developed a plan for me that would get me over the finish line at 3 hours and 30 minutes at a qualifying marathon, which happened to be the Toronto Marathon at the time. So I trained according to the plan, and in fact, prior to running the marathon, I did one 10K race.
Right.
Loved that.
Yeah.
Wanted to do another one that afternoon.
You should mention that you ran your first 10K in May, and then you did your marathon.
Well, yeah, I was going to mention that, and then I thought I was ready.
Yeah.
And he says, well, give it a try.
Yeah.
And so I ran the Toronto Marathon, and in 3:37. And I was devastated.
Oh.
I didn't think life should go on past that day. So I was kind of had a bit of a setback.
Yeah.
He says, "Don't worry about it." He says, "You're doing well."
This is
He
your
says,
first
There's
marathon.
hardly anybody your age that can run it even
under
at
a
3:37.
Yeah.
So I trained again, and I decided to run the Vancouver Marathon. And so I went out to Vancouver the next spring, and I was in April or May, and ran the Vancouver Marathon in 3:34. Only to be disappointed the second time.
Oh.
And that was in the spring, and then the following fall, there was the Toronto waterfront marathon.
That
And he says, you should be able to do it there.
That's the flattest of all three.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did that one, and lo and behold, I did it in 3:27.
3:27.
So I qualified for Boston, and I ran my first Boston Marathon the following spring, and ran just under 3:27 in Boston, which is a fairly
because it's much more hilly.
Much hillier. But I got so I ran several marathons after that, and what I got tired of is I kind of got tired of the big crowds. I felt kind of intimidated where at the starting line I had to, be worthy of place.
Just plow through the people.
And somebody mentioned it. You should take up trail running.
Okay.
So, this group of people, ultra runners, they were training out of a trail in Pickering, and so they invited me out to run with them one Saturday morning, and I went out there, and it was pouring rain, and the whole trail was a mud bath, and I had never had so much fun in my life. And I said, I'll never run another marathon.
Yeah.
I'm in trail running.
Oh my
so
God.
then I found out it's not just trail running, it's ultra trail running.
Ultra trail running.
And I said, well,
how
long are these races?
Is
well, you can go 25 miles, you can go 50 miles,
100
you can go
miles?
100 miles. 100 miles? Do you think I could do 100 miles?
Yeah. I don't even think I can clock it on a car.
So I talked to people and I said, have you done one of those 100 miles?
Yeah.
The guy said, yeah, but it took me four tries when I finally was able to complete one. So I said, oh no, I'll never be able to do it. So I started training with this group, and they're very nice people, and I seem to be able to keep up with the head of the group. And next spring, I ran my first 100-mile race down in Dundas Valley near Hamilton.
Went straight from a marathon to 100 miles.
No, actually, that's not true. I did that fall. I did a 50-mile race in Halliburton Forest.
Okay,
And most of the time, being afraid of bear, waiting for the next bear to chop my head off.
Make you run a little faster, actually.
Yeah. That's like if you go in the bush with a buddy, you don't have to worry about the bears if you're faster than your buddy.
You just gotta run faster than your buddy.
Yeah. So I ran the 50-miler and I won to my age group. And so the next spring was the Sulphur Springs 100-miler.
Do ultra marathons work like marathons where you have a qualifier for like something like a Boston Marathon?
No, some of them are popular and so popular that they do have lotteries for it.
Okay. But there's no qualifying time that you need to make it into those. It's more of just a lottery system.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And so I ran my first 100-miler, and I just finished it.
Finished it with a smile, or finished it
no,
exhausted and never want to do it again?
Well, once they gave me, what happens when you run a marathon, they give you a medal and a ribbon around you. But what they do in a 100-mile race is you go in a belt buckle.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yeah, and then usually these big belt buckles all decorated up. And that was really fun to get this belt buckle.
You really wanted that buckle.
I wanted that buckle.
You wanted that buckle.
So I did it, and I pretty much crawled over the finish line. And it was crazy. I mean, I lost all my toenails after that. They were all blistered and underneath the toenails, they all lifted up.
Yeah, that's one thing I heard from a buddy of mine, that you get a lot of chafing like everywhere. Right?
Yeah. Well, some people tend to chafe. Some people's legs run together, and they chafe a lot. But people are using wads of grease all over their bodies,
Vaseline, everything.
And Vaseline, and all kinds of. Everybody seems to have their own methods to control it.
Yeah.
So I ran that particular race a few more times, and then someone talked to me about, you should do the 24-hour. The 24-hour race. And I said, what do you mean 24-hour race? Well, how far you can go in 24 hours? Oh, where is that? Is that in the bush? No. They're done on 400-meter tracks.
You run a circle for 24 hours.
As far as you can go in 24 hours around the track. That's nuts. I'd never do that. And one thing led to another, and it's almost like a dare.
All right,
I got to try it. I got to try it. Just see, how far I can go. So one of the races is held in Ottawa, the Terry Fox Athletic Facility.
Okay.
And so I signed up for this thing. I thought it was pretty nuts.
How does it even work? Do you have like rest stations or like every hour?
No, you can go. You're around the track. Usually, you have somebody crew for you, your wife or a loved one who's willing to stay up for 24 hours and make you soup and so on, and keep you nourished, and fill your water bottles up and all that. And, I mean, you say you can walk and
need a team.
Yeah.
Who's your counter then? Do you have an official counter that counts?
Yeah, every runner. There would only be about 20 of us. Yeah. So they would have counters. Look after about 4 people, and every time you come around the loop, you acknowledge the counter, and the counter acknowledges you, and they click another 400 meters for you. So as time went on, people kept saying to me, the race organizers, keep it up. I think you're going to beat so-and-so's record. Yeah. And I said, what's the record? They said, well, we're not sure what the record is. They weren't sure. We're going to have to look it up. So I just keep going and going and going. So in the end, then they post the leader. They have a leaderboard. Yeah. And finally, I reached in the early hours of the morning. I reached the top of the leaderboard in every age group.
In every age?
Every age group. Guys your age and guys my age. And so that was kind of...
that's motivation to keep going.
That's motivation to keep going.
Yeah, they should have had that leaderboard right from the start.
Yeah. And so at the end, what they do for your last lap, they give you a bean bag. And so when the exact 24th hour, a horn blows, and you immediately stop and place the beanbag at your heel, and then they measure the distance for the last round, or the last lap. And I had I did 120 miles in change, and that was the 55 to 60 age group, and.
Was that a record? Do you know
so that was a. I learned afterwards it was a Canadian record.
Wow!
And I beat the previous record by, I think it was 9 miles.
It was
either 9 or 11 miles.
9 miles.
The previous record.
That's another race right there.
Yeah. So that was a real achievement. Next year I went back and I think I ran 118 miles in the next age group, which is another Canadian record.
You're just clearing all the age groups.
Yeah.
If you can go back in time and clear the earlier ones too.
Yeah. So I kind of love that, and I have plans to do bigger and better things, and eventually, these 24-hour races, as I get older, having this congenital blood pressure problem, it started to show up a little bit more. And as I think I mentioned to you before, my wife suggested she had better hobbies than mine, and went to drool from my chin.
You need a support team there. Like 24 hours is just even difficult just to stay up for.
Yeah. So it looked like the sofa from then on, and then a friend said, "Why don't you take up Masters Track and Field," which I never knew existed. Right. And so I went out, joined the track club, and the Etobicoke Track and Field Club, and they thought, I would be more suitable to run 5 and 10,000 meter track, which I tried. Right. And I just generally found it pretty boring. Pretty boring, and I didn't think I'd be very good at it. But at these track meets, there's all kinds of events for every age group, right up to well into the 90s. And there's people doing discus and javelin. And
you thought about doing javelin and discus?
Huh?
What about javelin or discus?
I hadn't thought of it. Okay. But there's a pentathlon element that you can do. So who knows? I'm still young, right? Still young.
Still young.
And so, but what I really enjoyed watching was the sprinters. And there's a lot involved, like running out of the starting blocks. And I said, well, there's a challenge. There's a real challenge. And so I decided told the coach I wanted to be a sprinter.
he said
And
no.
5 minutes later, then I told him I wanted to be a hurdler. He says, "Well, first we'll make you a sprinter." I haven't reached the hurdler
Let me see you
stage yet.
sprint first,
Yeah.
and then we'll decide if you can hurdle over this.
Yeah. So I've participated in 4 or 5 track meets so far, and won a few of them, and came second or third in others. There are some ex-Olympians in my age group. They're still out there. Tony Power is
one of the top.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And there's so I spend the winter in Arizona, and we have track meets down there as well in the winter. They don't have to move indoors. But so it's a lot of fun. But I guess the way I approach a project like that is, and you're aware of Stephen Covey, who wrote the 7 Habits of Successful People. The second habit is one called begin with the end in mind.
Right.
And I think that's a good. My boss in my last job used to use that as his personal motto, and I kind of adopted it for myself. And so begin with the end in mind, I think. But
we kind of discussed this earlier, but most people, you said, in high school you run track and you do all your more of this explosive speed and power type of things, and then they go into endurance as they get older, and you did the complete flip side, both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, people kind of shake their heads.
Yeah, you're on the dark side.
When I first started in track, one would introduce me to another member of the club or something, and they would say, "This is Bryan. He's from the dark side."
Yeah. It's funny how you have both ends of the spectrum, but there's not a lot of communication between your track and field athletes and like yourself. You're doing both, but there's not a lot of communication between the two fields.
No. In fact, I know no one who does both.
You're the only one. You're the only one.
But both are. There's many fine people in both, and in all age groups. And which was really remarkable is that people are still running, setting world records in their age groups, well into their 90s. A lady named Olga from British Columbia just passed away this past year, and she was setting every time she ran down the track, she set a new world record. And Toronto is a real hotbed too for masters athletes.
A lot of them train at York University.
Yeah, well, at York University, at the University of Toronto as well, and some on their own. And because I live half the year in 2 countries, I just tend to train more on my own. Or the odd sprinter to be comes along, you get to enjoy some buddy arrangements.
I guess I should talk about how I met Bryan, right? So I guess I was working in the field house at University of Toronto, and I just happened to pass by this fine gentleman just sprinting down the course, and I realized, that looks so graceful. I was on the rowing machine actually, and I walked up to Bryan and said, "Can you teach me that? That looks so graceful. How do you just power through it, and your strides just look so effortless? It almost looks like you glide." And from then on, I asked Bryan, and we met up once a week, and we trained a little bit. I'm sad to say that Bryan's going to go to Arizona for a couple months, but we'll keep in touch. 6 months, but we'll keep in touch when he comes back.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I have a question for you, though.
Sure.
How do you treat this different mindset going from running long, slow distance, like a 100-miler, to running 100 meters? Completely different, right?
Yeah. From running 100 miles, the mindset it's a mental exercise.
Yes. What do you think about
it? It's easy to quit.
Yeah, what do you think about it?
What I used to do is this 100-mile race, for example, was 8 20-kilometer loops.
Okay.
So the same loop 8 times.
Yeah.
So what I like to do then is count down.
Count down, okay.
8, 7 more to go, 6 more to go.
Yeah.
And sometimes I talk to myself and
play a numbers game.
And argue with myself, and and you get to the aid stations and you exchange a few pleasantries, and they give you some encouragement. You're always getting encouragement to go on.
Yeah.
And because there's 8 loops, you pass the finish line 8 times. And
Every
it
time
would be
you pass
so
by.
easy to quit.
Yeah, everyone pass by, you're like, I could just stop right now.
I could just stop. It's
Right
just
now.
as, you know.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just want to do that, and there's always someone there to push you back out, into the dark at night. But out there at 3 o'clock in the morning, by yourself in the bush, there was something kind of, I don't know, I was going to say pleasurable, but kind of in a zone.
Is it like the runner's high that people talk about?
It's kind of a high,
Yeah.
And it's amazing to be out running, for me to be out running on a trail and watch the sunrise. The sunrise gives you a whole new energy. Yeah, I found.
New life.
Yeah, it's like a new day.
Yeah.
But so it's largely mental to run 100-mile.
A lot of people
race. I mean, there's the physical aspect. You need to train very
mental
hard
and
as
physical.
well. Yeah, mental and physical, but it's certainly a large mental component. Whereas in track, I find that the worst thing you can do is think.
You're so slow when you think, right?
Yeah, when you're thinking, you're not doing. Right?
Every thought delays each step.
That's right. You have to make it and naturally just practice the same movement over and over again until it becomes the mindset.
And I think it's much more difficult for you because you do train by yourself in large part, right? In Arizona and here in Toronto. Most people would have a club where you have someone to push you, to motivate you, to watch, to keep you accountable. But now you're responsible for yourself. You got to wake up, early in the morning. You see the sunrise when you're doing your 100-milers, your long distance races, and then now, at Toronto, now you're doing the sprinting drills. That's also accountability on yourself too. You keep yourself.
Yeah, when I get up in the morning, I don't do anything I don't like.
And that's important.
And I enjoy what I'm doing, so that nobody has to push me out of bed to go and train. In fact, I think I probably enjoy the training more than the racing.
Okay.
Because the racing I'm nervous in anticipation.
How about when you were running your longer distances, like when you were training up for your marathon? Were you running by yourself also?
No, I usually ran with a group.
Okay.
Yeah. I trained with a group, and we would do on a weekend, on a Saturday morning, we would go and do a 50-mile run on a trail, and then do the same thing on the next day.
The next day.
Yeah, so we would over 2 or 3 days we would do in excess of 100 miles.
Crazy.
Yeah. We're reaching at the peak of training.
Yeah. There's one more thing I want to talk about. So there's there's a traditional model of for longer distances. You think of more of a volume. For example, when I was training up for a marathon, I looked at the training programs, and all I thought, not so much on technique, maybe it was just a large part on myself, but a large part I thought I need to build up that volume. How am I going to finish a 20-miler when I can't even run 10K? So I was always thinking, all right, I have to at least complete 10K. And it was always like an accomplishment every time I finished a certain amount of distance. So every week I was trying to pile on the mileage and okay, I need more this week, more next week, just leading up to the marathon. Did you have the same kind of philosophy of thinking
I had
more is better?
Maybe I could call it a small bite philosophy.
Yeah.
I think I told you before that I did a year plan to run the Bruce Trail in Ontario, end to end, which is 500-mile race, doing about 60 kilometers or so a day. And people would ask me, how can you envision running 500 miles? And I said, I can't. But what I can envision is running 5 kilometers many, many times.
Okay.
5 kilometers by the time I was doing 100-mile races was nothing.
Okay.
So I could run 5. I could just focus on 5 kilometers. How am I going to do that? And I had a plan for every 5 kilometers for 500 miles because the terrain in the bush and the trail changes. Sometimes I have to run along a roadside. Sometimes I have to run across loose rock up a steep hill. So I had all that planned right. So I do that 5K, and then I put that behind me. Then I do the next 5K, and so on and so forth. And the same thing, building up to marathon training, or building up to a marathon. If you look at it in small pieces, this is all I have to do today. I don't have to worry about 26 miles. Try to put that right out of your mind. Today, I have to run 5 1,000 meter intervals. And that's all I have to do.
Okay.
I can do that.
Take it all in.
And it accumulates. It eventually accumulates. And you work out your longest training day, maybe 23 or 24 miles.
How long would that take normally? To complete like a
Well, most marathon training programs are 18 weeks,
right.
16 to 18 weeks, and that's for everybody. That includes elite runners. They train harder than we do.
Right.
Most elite marathoners will log probably about 125 miles a week.
Yeah.
In training.
Yeah.
And I mean, even the Kenyans need to put in the time and the distance. And so it's just, let's just say, taking small pieces. But as my expression, begin with the end in mind.
Yeah.
I'll do that small piece, but in the end,
it's always on the back end.
Yeah, this is important today to accomplish the end.
Yeah.
And that's all I have to do is today.
How much of it do you think is like, you've been pretty successful running ultramarathons or running all long distances. How much do you think of it is technique? How much of it is mental capacity? How much of it is like your ability to maybe persevere? What do you think? How much is it like from your training maybe?
Yeah, I think your physical structure counts.
Right.
Like I'm not built like a sprinter. I'm built like a 800, 1500 meter runner.
Right.
And that's where I may be properly placed.
Yeah.
Now, if I was starting all over again, I was in high school or college, I would focus on being an 800 meter or 1500 meter runner.
Right.
Today, I just do what I want because it's fun.
Right.
It's fun to do what I want, and I'm not bad at it either.
Yeah.
But when I was 21 and I trained for sprinting, I would be left far behind. But I'm losing my thought here. But yeah, I think your physical structure has something to do with it.
Of course.
I see a lot of fairly weighty people running marathons, and I kind of feel bad about it. Yeah. They shouldn't be running marathons.
Right.
Somebody has this idea, plants this idea, and I think it's the shoe manufacturers myself, that everybody can do a marathon.
That the shoes
and they should.
Cushion.
I mean, some people die doing marathons, and those people probably have no business being there in the first place.
Yeah.
And but they could quite successfully go out and run a 5K race on their own time.
Yeah.
And it's much healthier.
Yeah.
It's just as more rewarding.
Yeah.
If you look at it in terms of your health and your mental and physical health.
Right. Physiologically, it's a lot more beneficial to run that shorter distance from them. But I think there's this culture of nowadays everyone wants to do more. And they think that's better. More. They think that it's better. And now that people run marathons at a time that's like over 4 hours, and it's more about like surviving the suffering rather than actually completing the race.
Yeah. I'm not into that.
Yeah. Well, so just last one. For anyone that maybe wants to try sprinting or maybe long distance running, do you have any advice or encouraging words for them?
Sprinting or running, generally? Well,
you started later on in life too. So
I didn't start running until I was 52.
So you can do it at any age. You can do it at
absolutely.
any skill.
Absolutely. But, don't do it if you don't enjoy it. If you enjoy it, by all means, do whatever you want. If you want to run a marathon, Make sure you enjoy it. I pass runners on the street, and they have this look.
Just
Surviving. Yeah.
surviving.
And I see a lot of college athletes. I overhear them talking about, oh, we got to do that again tomorrow. Well, you should be looking, if you enjoy it, you should be looking for, otherwise, find something else to do.
Yeah.
But enjoy it.
Yeah.
And you may not enjoy training and running a marathon, but you might love a 5K race for a charity, or even racing. There's all kinds of stuff you can do, but running is really a healthy pursuit, I think. And it certainly served me well.
I think you're a good example of you don't have to be built physically for that sport to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Maybe you're not built as structurally like a sprinter, a typical sprinter, but as long as you love it, as long as you like doing it, you look forward to it every day, you experience a lot of success. You're still doing it.
Yeah, I may not be built like a sprinter, but I'll do my utmost to become a sprinter.
Yeah.
I know that sprinters require power. And so I spend a lot of time in the gym, in the weight room, to try to improve my power. And I've heard a lot of people say that you can't develop muscle strength or anything after a certain age, and you start to lose it after 35.
What's reason? It looked pretty good to me.
I didn't look like this when I was 50.
Really?
I'm much stronger than I was when I was 50.
Okay.
Yeah, and then, and that's 20 years later. So it's never too late. But weight training, I think, is very, very important too. Yeah.
Alright, so if anyone ever has, maybe questions for Bryan, you think I can write down, maybe I can find a little link to email so that they can contact you. This is the nicest guy ever. Alright? Thank you, Bryan.
Thanks, Doug. Yeah, that's very nice.
I think I ran out of memory, but it's all good.